Hi, I'm Claire. I'm a third year student at ANU.
So I'm Thomas. I'm a first year law and criminology student, and I'm hard of hearing and wear a cochlear implant.
My name's Zach. I am the Publicity Officer for the DSA for 2020.
A word that defines my experience in isolation would probably just be pretty shit.
Probably tiring is the word I'd use.
I guess similar.
Cystic fibrosis has most definitely characterised my entire isolation experience. That puts me in the high risk category during the pandemic. CF is the most common life-limiting genetic condition in Australia currently, and there is no cure.
It's just been like being trapped inside a house where you can't leave at all, and just like having media that constantly comes through that's like really negative.
My life didn't change a whole lot, just because I'm quite lucky. So my disabilities mean that I'm quite often able to leave the house most of the time.
I moved back in with my parents and my brother and my dog in our little apartment. Because I'm high risk, none of us left except to get groceries and to do occasional exercise, so everyone was pretty much in the house the entire time. None of us left to catch up with anybody. I didn't see any of my friends for at least 2 months, or go to a cafe, go grocery shopping.
I literally stayed in this house for about 2 months, and it was, in addition to that, like it's extremely stressful because it's like you see normal healthy people and you see what the virus does to them. I can't even imagine what it would do for me who doesn't even have an immune system. And so that's just like another level of stress on top of it all.
So yeah, like the ADHD meant that I had to figure out ways to study around that.
The fact about cystic fibrosis is that we can't be near other people with cystic fibrosis because the chance of us passing on infections, lung infections to each other is incredibly high. So anyone with CF and I have to always stay 6 feet apart. In hospital, we always have to wear masks around each other. We can't touch anything that the other person has touched. People constantly have to sanitize the areas that we have touched and we've used before the next person uses it. So I'm very used to the housekeeping side of things, but
to think that like I'm in the same sort of category as elderly people, but like that's just the truth. My immune system just wouldn't be able to stand up to a disease like this. And so it's kind of weird when you see conversations in the media where it's like, oh, we've got to balance, all these concerns, takes away from like actual people like me who could actually suffer pretty badly.
Well, I think a lot of people don't quite understand the broad range of people that fit into that. So when someone sees me at the shops, because I am now going to the shops in Canberra, they're probably not thinking to be extra cautious around me per se, because I'm presenting as a completely healthy person. And that makes it quite challenging for myself as well, because there's a lot more sort of nuances, I suppose, I have to navigate in an everyday context now. And I think that's a very similar experience for a lot of people with invisible illnesses. These restrictions and guidelines are continuing, especially on university campuses. I suppose I just want to remind people that like working and living so selflessly, trying to protect others, so that being the sick and elderly like myself, it is very tiring and it can be very taxing for yourself, but please don't stop doing it, because if people stop, then it becomes so much harder for those of us who are at risk and centred around the pandemic. And
I know this is probably said all the time and people say it a lot, but don't take someone's abilities on face value.
Isn't that, even though it's like a difficult time for all of us, there are people who are still going through even more struggles than you are. And I think it's just about recognizing that, and just we need to be different in our attitude right now. Now's really not the time for politics. Now's not the time for fighting. Now's the time to like actually be supportive of everyone. And if you do know that there are more vulnerable people, meet people who are struggling more than you are. I think it's just important about reaching out and supporting everyone.